So it's now time to start the meeting. We've got 3 of these today, and we've got quite large numbers at least registered. How many people will be able to actually make the webinar, I'm not sure. So what we have is, as well as some slides and some live demos on the website, we have got some polls that we're going to try and run just so that we can gauge the audience, because we've had a look at who's registered, and we can recognize a lot of names and people we've talked with before over the years, but we also have lots of new people, and you're very, very welcome. But of course that means we don't know much about yourselves or your experience or your interests, so we're just going to try and do some informal polling to help us do that. None of the names will be recorded against the polling, so it's just a thing to help the webinar. So that's one thing we're going to try. We've got the Q&A section set up. If you can use that as we go through the webinar for any queries you've got where you would like an answer, either on this call or at a later date. And then please use the chat, as people already are doing, for any general feedback, thoughts, questions that you'd like to share. And it's really helpful to see people being active in there, and it really helps us as presenters to know that people are engaged in what's going on. We have this meeting is being recorded, and we're going to record the other 2 that we're doing today, and then we'll post one of them onto the website, as well as the slides, and I'll leave a link in the chat so you can go and get to the slides at the end of this webinar. Welcome everyone who's joining in. Ian, sorry, have we got anything else we need to say on the hygiene factors, Ian, before I...
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll leave the country poll open if people can see that. Okay, Ian, do you want to get going, and then I'll put the other poll up, poll 2 in
okay.
A minute or 2. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is the 3rd in a series of webinars to introduce the SFIA 9 beta release. The first 2 webinars that were held yesterday were targeted mostly at existing partners and consultants who obviously know SFIA well. And this is the first one of the open webinars where we have a very varied audience. The content is the same, but it's quite likely that the questions and discussion points might be different. So brief introduction to us. So we have Peter, who introduced this, Peter Leather, our update manager, and we have myself, the general manager of the SFIA Foundation. Also on the call, we have a number of people who act as a panel on this webinar. They are drawn from the Design Authority and also other people who've been experienced at using SFIA and have had a significant input. So just to help out with feeding questions. We're going to cover off 2 main things today. The first is an introduction to this webinar, the process that we use to create SFIA 9, a little bit more about the beta release, and then specifically we'll be looking at what might be seen as, if you like, different from SFIA 8. So a clear look at what SFIA 9 will look like. Bit of an introduction, first of all, for those who don't know about the operation of the SFIA Foundation. We have a board which is primarily there for governance, but it also drives the direction of the SFIA Foundation. And we had a strategy day a while ago to clarify what the SFIA Foundation's about and what we should be working on. So the purpose of the SFIA Foundation, which is an independent not-for-profit, is to enable greater capability and capacity within the global digital workforce. That's the reason we exist. What we are most known for is the SFIA framework, and so imperative or activity 1, the active stewardship of the global skills and competency framework, is the main thing we do, and the update to the SFIA framework resulting in a particular release like SFIA 9 is a key activity under that. And then the item number 3, to facilitate effective use and consumption of SFIA, or to put it another way, as one of the directors phrased it, make SFIA easier to consume. So that's really the driving force for what the SFIA Foundation does. And to develop that greater capability and capacity, organizations do what's on the left-hand side, the structuring of their workforce, the consideration of the skills required, how those are how those are acquired, recruitment, etc., how they might be assessed to determine what changes they might be needed. All of that needs a skills framework, and that's what SFIA is on the right-hand side. A question was raised in a previous event, what about qualifications and certifications? We recognize those, we recognize the importance of those. We don't specifically talk about what qualifications and certifications are required, but we do address the professional skills, the behaviors, the knowledge, and indeed a focus on experience. Just going to pick up a couple of points on this slide, not intending to go through it in detail. SFIA has a long history that has resulted in a significant track record and proven sustainability. And what is liked by the community, the global community that we have, is the constant that is SFIA. So the red line of SFIA versions illustrates the various updates that we have done to a framework that was created way back in the year 2000, and where we are today is version 9, specifically the beta release of version 9 in 2024, and the final version, the final release of SFIA 9 will be in October of this year. Over the years, we've moved from just maintaining the framework to supporting it with multiple languages, addressing change requests, looking at sample role profiles to enable people to make use of SFIA, and that will persist beyond SFIA 9. So our update
before you launch to that, so in terms of where people are use of SFIA, so we've got the majority of people have responded as saying that they're actually building frameworks. So that could be with an employer or elsewhere. We've got quite a number of people who are in for learning, 21%. So hopefully this will be useful, but it will not get into the basic details of how to use SFIA. If there are any questions that you've got about that, and you're feeling like they've not been covered in this, then please get in touch and we'll find some other way of getting that information to you. So we've got a range in, as expected, and I suppose it will, as we pan out into the details, we'll see where people's interests take us at the next stage. Slide 13.
Okay, thank you. So the SFIA update process. We spend most of our time listening to what industry wants. So we do that throughout the period of update. We have various themes we follow that seem to be appropriate. We have various workshops run. We have a design authority group. We have SFIA Council, which are a series of, or a number of people that use SFIA. We talk to industry bodies, we talk to individual organizations that use SFIA to address skills and competencies, and we also have a formal change request process. We then consider what options there are for updating the framework, which could be any of updating the framework itself, developing and refining guidance material for how SFIA might be used, enhancing the website and the presentation of the content we have, and providing additional user assets. If there's a change request or a comment made that we actually don't act on, then where possible, we try and explain why, because we get requests from all levels of SFIA use. Well, once we've done that, we put up a beta, which we then make available for people to comment on, and that's where we are today. So SFIA is built in public. You can see it being built. Much of what is in the beta was made available on the website, for example, 6 months ago, and developed over the last few months. But today, or last Monday, was the first time that all of that came together into a coherent release, which is the beta release of SFIA 9. So where we are is this this period. This is the 9 update. It's an instance. It's a short period of time of 9 months or so within that period of 24 years that we've been going, and we've done this a number of times. And from a sustainability point of view, we'll do this all again in 3 years' time for SFIA 10. But where we are is we've launched the beta release in 1st of July. That is now available for people to review and comment. We will act on the feedback, and then we will make the final release in October. And part of what we do now, apart from acting on the feedback we get, is to refine views on the SFIA website, bring the core documentation up to date, and initiate the translations. So I've hinted at why we release the beta version. In the past, SFIA was released by a sort of a big reveal. It was created and then made available as here you are. That worked fine for a few years, but we often got feedback immediately after the formal release that couldn't be acted on directly. So the purpose of the beta is to get that feedback before the final release rather than after it. So what we're particularly keen is to get your feedback, what you find useful, what you find less useful. Look at the scope of SFIA, look at the content of SFIA, and provide that feedback. You may be interested only in a handful of skills, or you may be looking at the framework as a whole. And also readability. If there are areas where it's not clear, please raise those. And yes, we do need proofreading, spelling checking, grammar and punctuation checks in the beta release, which is in English. And once we have sufficient feedback in those areas, we'll initiate the translations into the 12 plus official languages of SFIA. The other thing that beta does is it provides an early sight of SFIA 9 as a whole for everyone. Although there has been visibility before, as I said, this is the first time it's visible as a whole. It also allows those organizations that have been using SFIA for some time and maybe on SFIA 8, they have an opportunity to see where SFIA 9 is going and therefore be able to plan their own migration to SFIA 9 when it is finally released. But I make the point, be aware it is a beta. That means there will be some final changes and refinements prior to the formal release. And that means two main areas. First of all, there might be elements within the framework that are refined within SFIA Beta 9. There may be some skills that are, if you like, new in SFIA 9 that may not actually be finally released if the feedback we get suggests that should be the case. And we are anticipating there might be one or two areas where we get more input that will either add new skills finally in the last minute, or indeed refine some areas which at present are undecided. We have a couple of areas where the actual end point for those are not firmed up yet. They will be firmed up before final release, but they warrant further discussion. So you can provide feedback by emailing updates@sfia-online.org. So if you find some specific issue that you can't access, or there's some problem with seeing it on the website, please email updates and start the subject line with SFIA 9 beta. If they're for specific detailed comments on such things as typos, grammars, suggested rewording, then again, email updates again with the subject line SFIA 9 beta. And if it's specific to a skill, please include the skill code or the skill name so that we can easily track down and address those issues. And finally, change requests are still open. Again, if it's about a specific skill, please enter the code so that we can track it down. We want two main things. We want obviously feedback, and we want some volunteers to provide some help with proofreading, and we also want some dialogue on the current undecided issues rather than unknown issues. With that, Peter, I believe we have your next poll.
Okay, so we asked before how people were using it, and now this is just a quick test to see where people are in terms of how familiar we are. What we don't want to do is to assume a level of knowledge and then pitch the following slides at a level that doesn't work for people. So if you could give us a sense of where people's familiarity with SFIA is. Let's move on in, because otherwise we'll spend the time.
Well, I can see 38 people have responded. So
all right, I must be looking at the wrong place. Okay, good.
43. So, okay. Whilst that's going, I'll move on.
Perfect. Okay, it's in the chat. Keep going in. Yeah. And we'll
okay,
keep
fine.
an eye on it.
So, the SFIA 9 beta release. So what we've done is we have provided a landing page on the website, which is this page shown on the right-hand side, and we've identified the main areas of, if you like, work that we have done. So just to walk your way through this, and then I have got I'll bring the web pages up later on, but it's worth doing it from this position first of all. So the green boxes are the items that are directly related with the SFIA beta release. So for example, there is a box where you can then go out to the SFIA 9 beta documents. They are available now. We have the two red boxes, which is more about the SFIA Foundation and its operation. And then the majority of the boxes down the bottom are areas or web pages that will explain what we've done in a number of areas. So the brown one over to the right hand side talks about the levels of responsibility. Those are the SFIA levels, and the elements of SFIA, which are the generic attributes and behavioural factors. So by looking there, you'll find what's changed in that area. The blue boxes, the light blue boxes, are the areas in SFIA, the professional skills, which have been updated. There are others, but they're the main areas, if you like. The purple boxes are such things as a framework for skills, for AI skills, beta release of that, support for entry-level roles, cybersecurity, digital health. Those are about the application of SFIA in those specific areas. So we've got some information about that. And then we've got two grey areas, if you like, two grey boxes, which are the undecided elements of SFIA 9 at the moment. Briefly, I'll introduce that here. Testing, for example, we've had a number of change requests about breaking up the testing skill into multiple skills. We've run that past various people, and some people want it. Some people think why the current single test skill is sufficient. So we want to go wider on that to get a better perspective so that we can make a final decision. I've got it down here as an unknown. It's an undecided, really. we could go with where we are, the single testing skill, or we could go with breaking that out into multiple testing skills, and that decision is yet to be made.
So
We're
on that
also,
particular one
sorry,
here, and it's if people either on the call or you know of people in your workplace that are using the testing skill or are interested in testing generally as a profession, it would be great for you to get in touch, and we're hopefully going to set up some more deep dive sessions in there to flesh out what the issues and opportunities are in that area.
okay. And we are expecting 1 or 2 last minute inputs, particularly around AI, and we've been warned there might be something required in cyber, something new in cyber that we should look to address. And like everything else, it's better to get that before SFIA 9 is formally released than immediately after.
Sorry, can I just chip in on the
Yep.
service design
Oh, sorry,
area?
carry on.
Service design is an area we looked at within SFIA 8, and it's an area of broad interest, and lots of people who don't use SFIA have other frameworks that are similar or try to describe some of the skills associated with service design or user-centered design or experience mapping, or all sorts of stuff that's around there. And again, if people are actively involved in that area or know of people, it would be great to get some more detailed feedback on what options we've got around that. So we definitely want to support service design as a concept, but we're just trying to model the best way to do it in terms of representing its skills and other factors within SFIA and the supported material.
Okay, so I mentioned that page, that landing page, is available. It is available on the website under roadmap. So everything associated with SFIA 9 is under roadmap, because SFIA 8 is still the current released version. So as we work through the SFIA 9 beta, it will all be here, and then finally we will swap over to this is the released current version when it's finalized in October. So what hasn't changed in SFIA 9? The core framework hasn't changed. So the SFIA framework is still a straightforward 7-level framework that brings together professional skills, business skills, and behaviors and knowledge to reflect experience within a professional real-world working environment. That is still the case. The framework itself, the concepts, the values, the framework integrity are still maintained. That's one of the primary roles of the design authority. The relationship between the components within SFIA, the levels of responsibility, the generic attributes, behaviors, professional skills and knowledge is still maintained. The approach we take to the framework refresh is one of evolution to remain, and the purpose of that is to make sure that the framework remains current, relevant, and contemporary. And so some of the language changes from release to release, but often that reflects just the way people are talking in the industry. And then finally, SFIA is still and will remain so an industry and employment-led framework. So the most important attributes of SFIA are that it's useful to industry and usable by industry, and so we focus on skills for employment and developing the capability of a workforce. So what has changed? Remember,
Ian?
there are 3. Sorry, yep.
Just we've got a question that might be worth you
Okay, sorry.
answering on the previous slide. So Chanda has asked a question saying, could you provide more details on how SFIA tests the skill set? Does it work in some sort of certification way? So it might be a chance to
right, okay, yes,
talk
okay,
about the group.
okay. The SFIA Foundation maintains the framework for use by the industry, and the industry uses the framework in so many different ways, one of which could be for certifications and qualifications. So we don't define what those qualifications and certifications are, but many organizations choose to map their qualifications or training courses, qualifications through perhaps test or whatever, and indeed certifications using SFIA. So it is very common, for example, that the professional bodies align one of their certifications to a particular SFIA level and a number of SFIA skills at that level. We ourselves do not define it, but we do offer some guidance on how SFIA can be used in that use case.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about it, then please email me separately and I can talk, because we do have a number of organizations at the moment actively mapping their certifications and qualifications to SFIA. And in fact, there's a new set going to be published shortly in the cyber world. They'll have to do it all again for 9, but that work is ongoing. So the areas where SFIA has changed, and there are 3 elements to this. I'm going to work up the page to deliver the main point later. So we have a number of support assets for the use of SFIA that are presented on the website. That will change as SFIA 9 is finally released, and it will carry on afterwards because it is much bigger than the framework itself. We have areas of guidance, some illustrations of such things as sample role profiles, illustrations of career paths. All of that will be updated to reflect SFIA 9 when SFIA 9 is released. But within the framework itself, there are 2 main areas, one of which is a refresh of the business skills and behavioural factors, the core, the backbone of SFIA, if you like. And the second area is the refresh of individual professional skills. So first of all, the levels of responsibility and generic attributes. The levels of responsibility, the 7 levels, are unchanged. However, the content to describe them is better presented and made easier to consume, to use. And we've also taken the opportunity to provide some readability refresh to certain elements. So for those who are familiar with SFIA, you will find new components added to those descriptions. There will be some SFIA level essence statements. I'll explain what they are in a moment. Level guidance notes, and we've added headings to the behavioural factors, which used to be just one long stream of text. So I'll explain that briefly in a moment, and then later on in the webinar I'll go out and show you in practice. The essence statements. The reason for introducing this was to bridge the gap between the SFIA level name, follow, assist, apply, and the significant amount of text that describes what level 1, 2, 3, 4 is. So it's meant as a short piece of text that explains what follow means or assist means without going into the full text of all of the generic attributes that determine the level. We tested this along the way, and the general feeling is we haven't had any negative comments. People really like this. It allows them to discuss what follow means and what assist means using a short period of text, a short amount of text. So that's one change that's been made. I mentioned the behavioural factors. In SFIA 8, we published a glossary document, which was one of the most popular downloads. It was a PDF document that describes where you could find the behavioural factors within the SFIA generic attributes. That was hugely well liked. And then the obvious statement was made, well, why give us a map to show where these things are? Why don't you just bring them out explicitly? So we have done that. So now we have broken out the business or workplace skills into the individual behavioural factors that were previously distributed in various places. And briefly, I'll show you what it looks like on the website, because I'll show you on the website in a moment. But the bits that are new, the essence statement, the guidance notes, that's all new to an existing view of the generic attributes. And then there is the existing elements: autonomy, influence, complexity, knowledge, and business skills. But what is new in business skills is we've provided a heading to each of the behavioral factor statements. As I say, I'll show you on the website shortly. You can also see an individual generic attribute, such as autonomy, presented. Again, it's a familiar presentation, but we've added some elements to this. We've added a description statement to describe what autonomy actually means. We've added some guidance notes to talk about autonomy, and then existing statements about how autonomy or any of the other behavioral factors and generic attributes progress from level 1 to level 7. One of the key elements of SFIA is the absolutely core backbone of the levels of responsibility and the generic attributes, and then that they are all aligned with the individual professional skills at particular levels. So the diagram on the left-hand side is well known. It dates back further than SFIA 8. It shows how a professional skill, in this case digital forensics, the light blue, at level 4, also has the generic attributes of autonomy, influence, and complexity with it at level 4. So the two work together, the specific professional skill, digital forensics, and the various behavioral factors and generic attributes at a particular level. That all works together to form that integrated whole. We are exploring a new diagram to explain that in a slightly different way, and that's what we're looking at on the right hand side, where it is clear that certain elements to ensure there's that integration, certain elements play a greater role in the level, and other elements can in fact be developmental needs for people operating within a SFIA environment, and particularly within a level. We also make the point that knowledge is critical. We do not specify what knowledge is required. We talk about what type of knowledge is required. And the reason for that is SFIA is so broad and there are so many different options over knowledge. We choose to link to bodies of knowledge or identify possible knowledge rather than define what's required ourselves. The second area I mentioned was the update of the SFIA skills, the SFIA 9 skills update. We have the framework is unchanged, the scheme of the framework is unchanged, the content is better presented. So we have refreshed several skills, we've added levels where they are appropriate, we've updated the guidance notes, we've added some new skills, particularly in marketing, for example, procurement and financial management, and some other areas too, which are sort of extensions to SFIA, if you like, because of the wide scale use of it within industry. And we've also built into the website definitions a explicit linkage back to levels of responsibility. The themes we looked at for SFIA 9 were an update to the generic attributes, as I said, the cybersecurity. We have always addressed cybersecurity. We have looked at it again with a review to updating, and we're anticipating a couple of more changes in that area before SFIA 9 is finally released. We've taken a look at AI and positioning that. Again, we're expecting some more updates in that area, but we've built on what we did in SFIA 8 around machine learning and data science. We've presented a view, if you like, or how SFIA is applied for cloud computing skills. So we've looked specifically at cloud computing within the SFIA skills. We've done a review of data skills. We've looked closely at data analytics, primarily alongside the areas in SFIA of data science and data management. We've looked specifically at the huge area of digital health and digital health roles, and so we've looked at what skills in SFIA might be relevant and what new skills might be needed in that area. As Peter mentioned, we have an undecided on service design, so we've looked at that, and we are continuing to look at that and testing. And we've added skills around procurement, marketing, and financial management. One area that we were asked to do was to extend the skills down to lower levels, and we have looked at that, and where appropriate, we have extended skills to lower levels. So it's quite common that a skill starting at level 4 may well have a level 3 role, level 4 skill, but we haven't done what is often required, which is to bring all skills down to level 1, because within the context of SFIA and a level of responsibility, in some instances it does not make sense, and that has been preserved. So broadly, that's what we looked at. It's resulted in updates to the core framework, or updates to guidance, or updates to support assets. Very briefly, you'll find on the SFIA website areas where you can see how SFIA is applicable in particular specialist areas. So there's an area, SFIA, a framework for cybersecurity skills. It positions the core skills that are relevant in a cybersecurity world in a different presentation. You will also find career path mapping for the nice work roles, the European, the ENISA, ECF work roles, and also the UK Cybersecurity Council specialisms. So you'll see samples, examples of how it could be used in that area. We have the same for cloud computing. So we have a description of applying SFIA in a cloud computing world in much the same way. So SFIA, a framework for cloud computing skills. This is a beta. We're working on this for publication. And we have a beta, a very early version of the same for AI, which will be fleshed out between now and the release of SFIA 9. So this is more about using SFIA in these sorts of environments, but they have proved to be very useful and wanted descriptions of how SFIA can be used. So the second key area, the professional skills. What have we done as a result of following those themes? One of the main changes in SFIA 8 was around readability, and it was very well liked. So we have continued with the style of SFIA 8 for SFIA 9. One of the most popular pages on the website to look at is the directory of skills, the A to Z directory of skills. So we have refined that slightly for SFIA 9 beta. You can now search that A to Z, and the reason for that is there are, in SFIA 8, there were 121 skills. It looks like there's going to be about 134 or so skills in SFIA 9. And if you want to get to something towards the end of the alphabet, you have to scroll down a significant number. So you can search and get a smaller number to scroll through. You can end up picking just one, or you could put a wide scale search in, such as security, and up would come all of the skills where there is a security component, but that may and probably wouldn't be the full 134 or whatever. Also on the beta page, we've added tags to the tag column to this, which is an indication of what change has likely occurred within that skill. So using this as an example, asset management, there is no change. The skill is as SFIA 8. However, the skill below that, audit, there is a new level. And above that, animation development, there's a significant change, a large change, and also a new level. It just allows organizations to determine where they might like to look to focus on the impact of SFIA 9 for them. In addition to that, we produce for each release, it's a working document at the moment, a change tracker. This actually identifies what's changed, the level of impact of that change, and that's the graphic on the left-hand side. All of that is available from the roadmap page, so that you can actually see the changes that are likely to impact you or your use of SFIA.
One thing you didn't mention on the search and filter piece is that if you're familiar with SFIA, you get used to the codes and the skill names, so it will help you go directly. But of course, with new people coming to SFIA who aren't familiar with what they should be searching for, it's not as helpful. So just have an A to Z list. So the search also has quite a powerful keyword type search. So if people are looking for what they would have called a skill, it should direct them to maybe not just one skill, but 2 or 3 skills that could be the ones that they can then say, right, these are the ones I need to look at. Again, it's trying to make things easy for people, and for people who are new to SFIA, who will not have had detailed training in what all the skills mean and what the names are. So that's a key part of it.
For those people that have used the website to look at the details within a particular skill, the layout is much the same. So there'll be a lot that you recognize. However, we've added a few things. Now, because SFIA 9 is being built under roadmap, there are headings or the elements in brackets which say what part of the text is changed. So there's a number of things that are unchanged, and they're labeled as unchanged. What has changed is typically identified as modified or new. So that helps you determine what might be different from what you're used to seeing. We've introduced some areas, the bottom left, to describe the levels of responsibility and why this particular skill is not practiced at all levels. So this one, demand management, is only typically practiced at levels 4, 5, and 6, and we explain why. And that's with the little yellow boxes. The plus and minus allows you to bring that up and interrogate that if you want to, or alternatively, if you're comfortable with SFIA and don't need that, you can leave it hidden. With regards to the individual skill at level statements, which are the things on the right hand side, the yellow background is now used to describe the specific text associated with this skill at a particular level. But we also have the little yellow plus and minus box, which allows you to bring up the essence statement of the level at which this skill is being looked at. So if you look at the example I'll show you on the web, but if you look at the example here, we have level 4. You can make visible the essence statement to go alongside the text associated with demand management at level 4. So that's just a presentation issue, but it allows the more formal linking of the skill at a level to the level in terms of levels of responsibility. So this is an attempt at a seamless move over to the web. Peter, can you just say if you can't see something? So you should see the beta release notes page.
Yeah, we've got it there. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So as I mentioned, you can look at the roadmap to see any of these areas that you're interested in. You can also look at those that I had boxes around to bring them out. And here's an explanation as to what's happened. You can, for example, find the working documents that are associated with SFIA 9 beta. So you can get an Excel spreadsheet somewhere in here. There it is right at the top. You can get a Word document for elements within SFIA so that you can review it as a whole if you like. You can find the summary chart. You can also find the summary chart here, and if you click on that, it will go out. And this is another way into the SFIA skills, because these are all hyperlinked into SFIA 9 beta, and alongside the the fairly familiar summary chart of the skills, we now present the SFIA level essence statements to help people understand what these individual levels are. I talked about the individual levels of responsibility being updated in terms of their presentation. So there is now the essence statement for all levels, and you can find them down the left-hand side. So there's a common essence statement or common approach to an essence statement for each of the 7 levels. We now have guidance notes specifically associated with the level of responsibility and this particular level. We then have the text associated with autonomy, influence, complexity, and knowledge. And in some instances that this hasn't changed from SFIA 8. In other areas, there have been readability refinements for those. And we explicitly now bring out, under what we used to call business skills and behavioral factors, the individual text that was previously a single lump of text. We bring that out with the statements under specific headings of such things as decision making, planning, collaboration, problem solving, etc. So not particularly new, but the presentation helps people to focus on particular areas. I showed you the overview of the autonomy page, and this is it on the website. You can see now that there is a description of what autonomy means, guidance notes around autonomy, and then specifically the statements of autonomy for each of the levels. And this is preserved or presented for autonomy, influence, complexity, knowledge as before, but we've also added the breakouts. So you can look at, for example, decision making. And it is presented in exactly the same way. We've also created an A to Z effectively of the generic attributes of autonomy, influence, complexity, knowledge, and business skills. And we've broken out the individual business skill elements, the behavioral factors. And this is another way in to look at them explicitly. And we have linked, if you like, the description of what they are to the item. And that's just another way to be able to look explicitly at what SFIA has integrated alongside the professional skills. Looking at the professional skills, we mentioned the A to Z. So you can put there is a huge number of skills, and the important thing from this list is being able to look at the change that might be relevant to you or for a particular skills, and specifically you can use the search like security, and up will come a subset of the full list of skills where there is a security component to them. So there's the obvious ones like information security, penetration testing, information assurance, threat intelligence, all of those sorts of things. But there are also the skills that have a direct element of security within them. And again, although here it's again a long list, it's not the full 134 or so. And looking at a particular skill, this is how it will open up. So this is the default of the view. In this case, looking at demand management, there is still the description with each skill that in this case is unchanged. Obviously, any new skill will have a new description. There is the existing guidance notes, which may or may not have been updated, modified. In this case, it has been modified. There is an area here where you can go and understand why not all skills are described at all levels. And then there is the description of this particular skill at each of the levels at which it can be practiced. So in this case, it's only 4, 5, and 6. So there's level 4, 5, and 6. And the text in this case is unchanged for level 5. So this would be the same as SFIA 8. text. However, there's a new level, level 4, and so this is new for SFIA 9. You can also expand and get linkage to the essence statements for the relevant level. So this essence statement is common to all level 4 skills, and this essence statement is common to all skills at level 5. It allows you to be able to see the two together if you want to. And since SFIA is an integrated model, it provides an easy way of being able to see those behavioral practices, the impact of your work and the work you do, if you like, the skill you perform in one place. And you can link out directly to look at level 4 in more detail if you wish. You can obviously close them down as you choose. You can increase them, open them all up or not. And if you open them all up, what you get is you can see the essence statements for the level, and that helps you explain to people why demand management isn't performed at level 1, because it probably doesn't make sense. It's someone claiming to perform a demand management role, performing this skill. It is unlikely that they would be only performing routine tasks under close supervision and following instructions and requiring guidance to complete their work. That is too low a level of responsibility for performing this skill. And of course, you can obviously then close them all down if you wish. But it's meant to be able to help those organizations that frequently discuss a skill at a level with their staff, and if you want to be able to do that, to look at what's in SFIA level 4 for this skill and level 5, it can help to look at the essence statement at the same time. Any questions on that before sort of moving on? Okay, I'll carry on and we can always come back to it. So within this webinar and within the materials, we've got links to those web pages that I showed you. You can poke about yourself, obviously, but if you want to look specifically at the ones that I've shown, then their links are provided there, and broadly what the individual change to those pages are. So a final sort of wash up of what we've changed for SFIA 9 Beta. SFIA is now much more than just the skills and competency framework. It's a whole host of other things: user guidance, a whole ecosystem behind the framework, explanations, sample role profiles as illustrations. We make the point they're illustrations. We do not define what they should be for an industry, but industry could define them using SFIA. We've provided illustrations of career paths for leveled nice cybersecurity work roles, same for UK cybersecurity specialisms, the ENISA ECF work cyber roles, and for health informatic roles. They are illustrations. They have generated a huge amount of interest, and various organizations in those areas are looking to possibly take those, develop them a little bit more, and possibly turn them into sector definitions for the purposes, for example, of certification. SFIA user content. This is actually what we used to call SFIA views. It's how SFIA is used in particular environments. We provide a description for with cybersecurity as a SFIA framework for cybersecurity, SFIA a framework for cloud computing skills, SFIA a framework for AI skills, and there are going to be other applications to follow. The website is now, and has been for the last 2 releases of SFIA, an increasing and very rich resource. So you'll find lots of new content on there, and we are working to make it easier to consume. So there will be refinements to the website in due course. For SFIA 9 Beta, the framework itself, we've looked specifically at the levels and the generic attributes and refined how they are presented to make SFIA easier to consume. And we've also looked at the professional skills. So you will find additional skills. Some skills have been replaced possibly. Skills may be renamed or restructured slightly, and you might find levels added or moved. But again, all of that is visible from the A to Z page, or indeed the change tracker at present. So a very quick reminder, if you want to look at SFIA in particular areas, you can go to Roadmap and follow particular discussion topic areas here. You can get the documents to look at SFIA 9 in detail if you want via the Working Documents folder, and you can see everything under Roadmap, and also look at existing SFIA 8 content for those who are either still there or looking at what it looks like in the final release. SFIA 9 will have the same format, but you can also look, for those who are new to SFIA, under help and resources for other assets, all of which at present are drafted using SFIA 8, but they will be updated for SFIA 9 in October. So finally, we want you to look at the framework. This is a reminder of a previous slide. Please contact us, updates@sfia-online.org, with any issues you may have, or any comments you may have, or any suggestions for improvements you may have. And what we do now is we act on that feedback. We initiate the translations. Under the terms and conditions of SFIA, we don't allow translations of the material without explicit permission. The reason for doing that, and we want to encourage translations, but the reason for doing that is if everyone translates SFIA differently or uses it differently, it can't be made available to others. So translations of SFIA are made available on our website, and they are supported. We have a mechanism for doing that now. So please, if you are interested in translating SFIA into either one of the existing languages to update or a new language, please contact us so it can be done in a controlled manner for the good of all, rather than used with lots of people doing it in a different way. We'll update all the support assets and identify further improvements to the SFIA website. And what we want from you is review and feedback. We're also looking for volunteers to help with proofreading and help with translations. And we're also looking for help with further development. There has been a question raised. Can we have some ongoing working groups that focus on topics to keep the discussions going to refine SFIA further in the future? Notably, for example, cyber, but it could be any area. And also help with developing supporting assets and guidance. And the key message is SFIA is a community now, not just a framework. Not just an ecosystem, it's a community of people addressing skills and competencies. So please get involved. And with that, I think we have come to the end.
On the minute, Ian, well done. Claire, the web page with the slides has got the email address and everything on there as well, so that anyone who's got any interest in getting involved, please let me know. Also, I'll just put the link again there, but if we've got a position where it's not quite a straightforward, I'll write you an email, you know, we're happy to have a conversation and a chat about things. It's really helpful to dig deep into some things, and we don't want any barriers that feels like you've got to go through a bureaucratic process to get in touch and contribute. So that offer's open to anyone. I can't see any other questions, Ian. It's thanks everyone for your feedback. Really appreciate that. And we've had a good turnout, and people have stayed. Most people have stayed to the end as well, so that's always an encouraging sign.